part three of this, we'll just say the continued series surrounding marriage and complexities. So, to recap, while we're waiting on a couple of people to join us tonight, we've been talking about the different complexities in marriage, and the ones that we're focusing on that kind of stem over into all the other areas of marriage that you typically are going to see with problematic occurrences are, for the males, the lack of preparedness on men to provide and show up emotionally as husbands and fathers. And so this trickles down to husbandry. You know, that ability to take whatever you need to be able to provide and steward well for your family, to protect, um, and to provide emotionally, spiritually, and physically. All of those different ways that a husband is called to provide. And also in cherishing and not trampling or treating his wife as a doorstep. And for the women, the complexities concern women as submissives, you know, to be able to be a respecter of her husband. And so this typically is going to stem from a lack of having that actual display, that role, or that leadership. So being that noble character, the lack of moral, you know. So, you know, when you don't have morale and you go forth and you partner yourself with someone, on the previous lives, we've talked about how when you show up and the two people are bringing in traumatic wounds or things that they have not healed from, this tends to be a problematic area. And because it's something that needs to be examined before you even dive into a marriage, a lot of times what happens is you go through the honeymoon phase, you have the dopamine, and then that wears off. Well, it's no different than um, having, you know, this be the case with these two complexities being present. And so as we get ready to dive into the recap of the second portion, which was purity and the engagement phase, you see that you should be exploring these things, identifying red flags. You should be picking up on the ways that the person is treating you, that you're dating. That is what the engagement period is for. It's for you to engage. um, it's no different than how you would go through a college where you have your orientation. You're becoming oriented with one another. And so, hi, welcome in. And so, when you are going through the orientation phase, you're familiarizing yourself with the territory. So, that's the same thing that you're doing in a marriage. You're familiarizing yourself with that person. You're familiaring up. You sure can. Thank you so much. I am grateful for you taking that time to subscribe, like, and support any way that you can. But with that, you stem from the complexities in marriage, and from the complexities, either they're going to bring these traumas in, or they're going to enter into this union in a healthy, wholesome fashion, and then it's going to be something that's beneficial, it's something that's fed, it's something that's nurtured, and it's something that grows instead of something that fizzles and then just eventually dies out. And that's not what you ever want to be the case. So for those of you that are joining, we are dissecting marriage and the complexities of it, what you should be doing during the engagement phase, and what you should be doing during the um, purity phase before you even dive into being engaged to someone. And then marriage, how you show up. We're going to be going over 10 different ways that you show up in marriage. And so if you have any questions or thoughts, then please feel free to put them in the comments, because I will go back at the end of the segment and we will dissect those questions, and I will also address and give those shout outs as well for those of you that take the time to come in. So during the purity phase, you're preparing yourself to bring your 100% with the 100% of the person that you're choosing to be with. And I always share, if that person has traumatic experience that they're bringing forth to a relationship, it is imperative for that person to heal, because by them healing, they're going to be able to, as a male, be emotionally available, attentive, and provide from a place spiritually, mentally, physically, and emotionally. All of those areas is where a husband is called to provide and protect. So if he can't bring those things to the table during the dating phase, he's certainly not going to be able to do that during the engagement phase. And if he's not doing it in dating or engagement, then he's more than likely not going to be able to do that in the marriage. And so this is why it's important for you to unpack all of those different wounds, to heal and be available when you get to the point where you are married or you are in a union. And so when you talk about the women, the different types of traumas that women typically see are they're going to bring forth the inability to respect and honor her husband as a submissive. And that doesn't mean being a doorstep. So let's nip that in the bud, like right up front. That's not what that means. When you're submissive, that means that you can trust your husband with protecting you, leading you spiritually, emotionally, physically, and he's going to have your best interests at heart. That is what being a submissive wife means. It does not mean that you have to be a servant. It doesn't mean that you are just a doorstep and that you're transactional. That's not what that means. And so a lot of people misconstrue that verse where it says, wives are to be submissive. Yes, they are under the right stewardship of their husband, being a spiritual leader, a spiritual protector, emotional, physically caring and cherishing her. That's what she's supposed to do. We are actually talking about the complexities in marriage, purity, engagement phase, and then 10 ways with two bonuses that you can show up in marriage, for those of you that are asking. And so during the purity phase, this is where you are developing yourself. You are taking the time to dissect all of the things that you need to work on as you prepare for the role of a wife or a husband. During that phase, that should be your focal point. What you're going to attribute, how you want things to turn out. You are literally gearing yourself up for the position. It's just like with you doing an interview. You know that you've gone through the schooling, you've gone through the training, you've gone through the certification process, and now you're ready to interview for this role. It's just like marriage, but it's much more serious because, unlike an employee, you don't get the chance to just check out, or you shouldn't if you're basing it upon scriptural principles, unless there are infidelities or adultery. And so, with that being the case, that's what that purity phase is for. So then by the time you get to the dating phase, you now know what you house. You know what your value is. You know how to healthily have the communications about the red flags that present themselves. You also know how to exemplify the very thing that that person from a healed and wholesome place is going to be seeking. So the purity phase is very important, and it allows you that preservation because by you preserving yourself, you're going to equate more value to yourself than anybody else that's being compared. And so you want that to be the case because you are going to be a perfect fit for the person that you're meant for. So you don't have to force it. And this is why I say it's important for you to do the work, because if it ever comes a time where there's a red flag and you need to walk away from it, you're not just anxiously moving forward in something where you are recognizing red flags, but you're afraid or you don't know how to have those conversations. So that is why it's imperative to do that work, to be knowledgeable of the roles that you are actually seeking, and for you to understand what you should be seeking in a spouse altogether. And then by the time you get to the dating phase, this is where you're actually taking the time to dissect each other. You're learning, you're testing things out, you're kind of getting to know someone. It's just like when you get ready to transition to that engagement phase. Now you're at the engagement phase, and I just said this, but it's like an orientation process when you go to a new role or a school. You are becoming familiarized with a new setting, with a new role, with new responsibilities, and you're ensuring that you're asking questions, that you're preparing yourself. That is what you want to make sure that you're doing so that you don't bring along these complexities that could interfere or hinder your relationship down the line, because it's becoming so common for people to just check out when the going gets tough. They're exiting, and this is why. I mean, this is the stuff that's not talked about. People are watching social media and reality shows and not really understanding what marriage is. And so that's why on this platform, I feel like our Heavenly Father has given me the mouthpiece to be able to utilize my skill set for one, and my experiences having been married for um, 17 years, going on 18, and having been with my husband for 23 years almost. And so these are the ways that you're going to make sure that you have that foundation. You're going to also make sure that you're able to work through any type of challenges that you're going to experience within your marriage. And so that's what that engagement phase is for. If you recognize those red flags, you're able to have a discussion about it. You're able to make a healthy decision based off of what you know you are valued at and what you know the value is supposed to be of your spouse, and not just an idea or an unhealthy image of what you saw that was actually toxic. Because if we're being honest, a lot of people come from broken homes. A lot of people, and I'm not knocking anybody's family dynamics or trees, But a lot of people are very, very traumatized. They have a lot of trauma, they have a lot of baggage. And so when they get into relationships, it's nothing but a whirlwind of more trauma and toxicity. And instead of you doing that, you can choose to do something different. You can choose to prepare yourself mentally, physically, and emotionally. And spiritually, when you're preparing this stuff for this role, you are maturing. So in your maturation, you're able to house all of these things and exemplify them. That's what it's all about. And so that's what the engagement phase is for. So now we're going to dive into the 10 ways that you can actually show up in marriage. So by the time you've gone through all of those things, you've examined the complexities. Is he, as a wife, you're asking these questions. Is he available? Is he going to be emotionally available? Is he going to be able to be gentle with me? Can he cherish me? Is he going to be able to go through the different waves and seasons of marriage and be gentle with me in each season? Because it's one thing when you don't have children, but I like to tell people, once you add children to the mix, it's going to be a different dynamic. It's not going to be the same as it was previously because that dynamic changes. It's not just two of you again. It's you and the children. So a lot of things are shifted around. A lot of things, the responsibilities change, the roles, still stay the same, but there are more things on the table that have to be attended to. So is he going to be able to do those things and still be able to keep up the way that he cherished me before I had children? And then for the male, you should be asking yourself, is she going to be able to honor and respect me? And so when you choose to be a spouse, you have to forsake all of this other stuff. It's no more being a bachelor lifestyle. It's no more being a bachelorette either lifestyle. That means you are now focusing on your spouse. You are now doing a oneness and you are collectively doing things to build your union. I'm not saying that you have to sabotage or tarnish or abruptly end all of your outside or exterior relationships, but you do need to identify one thing. And I'm very, very big on this. If you are married and then you have a circle full of single friends, you need to examine that. Because why are you surrounding yourself with something that can now not contribute to what you're building? And what I mean is, not to say that you should rush them, but you do need to be around people that are going to be able to support you in your marriage and through your marriage, because there will come times when you have challenges. There will come times when you do need that support morally and from those that you care for, those that are your safe space. So, and the same goes for the women. And so that is one of the things that you want to consider when you are, preparing to go through these things and you're examining the complexities. And so 10 ways to show up in marriage. Um, and like I said, well, I'm going to back up because with the women, guys, you're going to want to make sure that you're examining the wife. You're going to want to make sure that you're examining the way that she respects you, the way that she honors you. Is she still acting as if, you guys aren't serious during that engagement phase? Because chances are, if that husband is not emotionally available or attentive during the dating or engagement phase, he's not going to present that in marriage. And the same goes for the woman. If she's not honoring, respecting, and just portraying that type of wife or that girlfriend in the engagement and dating phase, she's more than likely not going to be that way when she's a wife. Just because you get a piece of paper does not mean that their character changes. This is a character circumstance. That person is who they are. Believe that. I always say, do not go based off of potential. Do not marry based off potential, because just because a person can doesn't mean that they will. Just because a person does this for other people doesn't guarantee that they'll do it for you. And this is why you can have someone who, is in a marriage for so long and then they go off and end up with someone else and they're a completely different person. That was the same person the whole time. But just because they had potential to do something doesn't mean that they had to. And they didn't choose to. The other rule of thumb, you shouldn't have to ask, because if they wanted to, they would. You shouldn't have to ask. If it's genuine, you don't have to ask. They would ask you. So it's, for example, if they didn't grow up in a loving romantic household, but they want to learn because they care this much about this person, they're going to ask you what your interests are. They're going to ask you what types of things you're interested in, what types of things you desire, what your goals and your aspirations are, how they can help you become the best version of yourself for you. And then in turn, they benefit, they reap the reward, because, it's a partnership. and vice versa. And so those are the things that you want to make sure that you're looking at. Like I said, when identifying those complexities, and then during the purity phase, you're going to make sure that you're working on yourself. After that, you get into the dating pool, you're going to see what the compatibility is and not be afraid to walk away. And so you have no business accepting that proposal if that person has all of these red flags. They either work through them or you walk away. Same goes for the male. If you're proposing and she's not measuring up, you either are going to work on them and there's an improvement or you walk away. And so don't do it out of anxiety or pressure. I've talked to so many people who have moved forward and done it because so many people were pressuring them, but then they ended up divorced. You don't want that to be your circumstance. You don't want that to be your case. So move forward with the discernment and the spiritual maturation to say, I thought that this was it, but you know what? This is not it. So I pray you well. Do that. And if it's meant to be, it'll be. Um, but then by the time you do choose that person, now we're talking about after you've gone through all of the legwork, you've done the hard work, now you're actually married. What does that look like? How can you show up? 10 ways that you can show up in marriage. The first one is be present, guys. I'm not talking about just sitting there like a lump on the log. Be present. This means that you need to be emotionally available. This means that you need to be emotionally and spiritually mature, because there will come a time when you have rough seasons and you need to be able to work through that. You need to be able to effectively communicate. You need to be able to actively listen. You need to be proactive so that you can actually work on and work through and resolve the issues that may arise. All of these things are necessary in a wholesome marriage. The next thing you're going to want to show up and do is be respectful. And this works both ways. It's that golden saying or the golden rule, you give respect where respect is due. You do it because it's a command, for one. But you also want to make sure that you're respectful for the person that you vow to love and honor and respect, or to love, provide for, protect, and cherish, depending on your role. So you want to make sure that you keep it respectful. It's things that you're going to talk about in private. There may be things that are publicly displayed, true enough. But when it comes to your connectivity, everything, nothing should be off limits. There should not be a part of yourself that you are withholding from your spouse. No new stuff. It should not be something about your spouse that someone else knows that you don't, and vice versa. Okay? So be respectful. And then the third is going to be kind. Yes, it's so cliche, I know. Be kind. But women, we can kind of get a little snappy. We can get a little jazzy. But you have to be kind. You can't spew things. You can't use this dagger called your tongue and just spew unkind things in the heat of the moment. You have to learn to be kind. And the same goes for the males. You are called to not be harsh with your wives, and it's a reason for that. Women are more emotional. It takes more out of a woman when you emotionally disrespect her, or you emotionally hurt her or harm her. And so kindness goes a long way in learning how to just be kind, agreeing to just separate for a moment. I'm not saying like in separate households. I'm just saying, you know what, whenever we're having a challenging conversation or a heated conversation, we're going to just, drop it, give ourselves 30 minutes to cool down, or we'll just drop it and we'll talk about it after we eat dinner. Because a lot of the times, the stuff that you argue over is nonsense anyway. So by the time you remove yourself from that mindset, you're taking captive all of your thoughts and you're practicing self control in your being kind. What you're doing is you're healthily examining the area that needs to be addressed. You're removing the emotions out of it, and then you're coming back to address it. And so be kind. The fourth is be forgiving, guys. Yes, that means that you have to give grace. It does. But golden rule is what? Somebody should put it in the comments for me if you know it. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's right. So that means if you decide that you don't want to forgive your spouse, you consider if you did something to them and they didn't forgive you. You are to be reflective of the things that you want to receive. If you're not willing to forgive, then you shouldn't expect for anybody to forgive you. And honesty, guys, we're going to be honest tonight. That's what we do on this platform, on this page anyway. Um, when you are in a position as a human, you're going to screw up. I'm being honest. You're going to screw up. You screwed up as a child. You screwed up um, as you're gonna screw up as a wife. You're gonna screw up as a mother, because you are human. You have to give yourself that grace. So be forgiving of your spouse. You have to extend the same grace to your spouse, because if you don't, a lot of things are going to go left really quickly because you're expecting something that's unrealistic out of a person that you yourself can't even exemplify. And so when you forgive, I didn't say you were going to forget, but you forgive. And forgiving is an action. You have to choose to do that. All right? So forgiveness, it goes a long way. The fifth thing is going to be accountable. And when you're accountable, guys, it's beautiful. So when I was preparing for this message, the Holy Spirit was examining me, and I was like, okay, well, where are we going to go with the accountability part? And this is what it was. An accountant examines everything that goes out and everything that comes in. They match every credit, which is everything that comes in, and where it's going to be invested. And they match every debit that's going out and see that it makes it to its destination. So the credits are going to come in and be examined about where they're going to be invested into. And the debits are going to go out, and we're going to make sure that they reach their destination. So this connects to another one of the things that you're going to want to make sure that you show up and how you show up. But with this, accountability means that you're examining everything that you put in and everything that you take out. You should not just be giving, 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 and you should not be just taking, taking, taking. It is a partnership. It has to have balance. Just like with that accountability, the accountant is making sure that everything goes out properly and everything comes back and is managed well. But they're also making sure that there is balance, guys. You have to have balance, because if you don't have balance, then things are going to be off. They're going to be off. It's a reason that our Heavenly Father wants things to be equally weighted. It has to balance. And in order for things to balance, you cannot just put things on someone else. And this ties in that complexity of the emotional immaturity in either party. Because when you don't have the emotional maturity to handle the different seasons, the different challenges that come along, you start to blame shift. You're taught you some One of the spouses are going to make a suggestion or bring up something that may be problematic in the marriage or the union, and all of a sudden you shut down, or you're now blame shifting, or you're trajecting. You don't want to do that. You have to have balance, and a part of that balance is going to require that you take accountability. And so accountability is very big in marriage. And that brings us to our sixth. Through you having that accountability, you have to also be able to choose this action. This action is being loving. You have to be loving, because being loving allows you to cover a multitude of things. And so I think it's Second Corinthians chapter 13. It talks about what love does. And so by you being loving, you choosing that action, you're choosing to give grace, you're choosing to forgive, you're choosing to be kind, you're choosing to practice self-control, you're choosing all of those things because you're choosing to be loving. Okay? So once again, that golden rule, if you want someone to love you well, then you should be exemplifying love well. Okay? And so that brings us to number seven, which is be of value. You were not just created to come in and then when you get there, oh, I've won, I'm married, I stop everything that I brought to the table. Absolutely not. Do not do that. You are going to sabotage your marriage before it even gets off the ground. You should be building a foundation, and a part of building that foundation is making sure you stay uniquely you. You are supposed to keep that value that you had when you first met. That's what attracted your partner. That's what drew them into you. And then from that, you now are blending the two different characteristic traits and you're building your life together. So you should continue to bring that value. Don't become a doorstep. Don't stop dating. Don't stop cherishing. Don't stop respecting and honoring. Don't stop being um, creative. You have to keep these things intact. You have to keep that value. And then, eighth, you're going to want to make sure that you keep this one in connection with keeping that value. You're going to be intentional. It's just like I said, When you get married, you still are supposed to date one another. You still have to prioritize that time, because if you don't, it'll fizzle. It goes flat. And so you bring the kids in, and then now it's all about the kids. The kids grow up. Now they're out, and you don't even know each other. You've lived with each other all of this time, and this is why people can go for so long together and it turned into a roommate situation. Well, I'm here to tell you it's easier to do that if you don't put forth intentionality. You have to be intentional about what it is that you desire and it to give, for one, because remember we have that accountability, and a part of accountability is making sure things balance. You can't be the only person that plans that date night. You can't be the only person that's making the suggestions about romanticizing things and keeping things fresh, because it's marriage. Come on now. When that dopamine wears off and when that honeymoon phase goes away, and those kids you've gone through having like two or three childbirths, and you've seen everything and everywhere, you have to keep that intentionality there. You come up with new things that you like to do. You're not going to enjoy some, most of the time you're going to change a lot of different things from the very first time that you met your wife. If you go and talk to a couple that's been married successfully and wholesomely for at least 30 years, they don't enjoy doing the same things that they once did in their 20s or their 30s or their 40s. They grow, they evolve, they learn to do new things together, they learn to try new things together. But the intentionality has to be there, because without it, it is not going to grow, it's going to die. And so being intentional. Number 9 is going to be proactive. So it's just like the intentionality, just like the accountability, and making sure that you continue to bring that value. You have to be proactive. So when you see something that's not working well within your marriage, you have to be proactive to have those conversations. It's a part of it. This is that spiritual maturity that you have to exemplify. You got to put your big girl pants on, your big boy boots on. You cannot move forward with this little haughty attitude. I'm gonna not gonna talk. Oh, I'm gonna give you the silent treatment. You say what needs to be said, maintaining that kindness, that respect, that love, and the forgiveness, while holding that person accountable. But you're being proactive in that moment, and you're setting that healthy boundary instead of letting that fester over and then a big explosion. And now you're saying things that you regret or doing things that you can't take back. All of those different reasons you want to be proactive when you are in a marriage. This is how you're showing up. And then number 10 goes without saying, but I have to say it anyway. Okay? Be faithful. You have to be faithful, guys. I know it sounds cliche, but there are so many people out here that do not respect marriages. And so you taking that vow, taking that walk down that aisle, making that covenant before our Heavenly Father, you have committed to be faithful. You have to be faithful, because this is the one thing outside of so many other things that could go wrong that most couples do not come back from: infidelity and adultery. A lack of faithfulness sabotages. You can do all the others. You can be present, you can be respectful, you can be kind, you can be forgiving, you can be accountable, you can be loving, you can be of value, you can be intentional, you can be proactive. But if you are unfaithful, all of that other stuff goes out the window. And so you want to make sure that you are the apple of your spouse's eye and that they are the apple of yours. You make them the priority and your focal point, just as you vowed. If you see that the characteristics are not there when you're dating, when you're engaged, more than likely those characteristics are not going to be there when you're married. That's that whole engagement complexity that if you identify it, you better run for those hills. And I don't care if it's a woman or a man. If the character does not say that I'm able to be committed faithfully, it is not something that you should be considering marital material. And so be faithful. And that moves us over into our bonuses now. And the first bonus is be honest. It goes without saying, because bonus, honesty, and faithfulness go kind of hand in hand together, but you're being honest. So while you're being honest, this allows you to enhance that safety and security with your spouse. Your spouse wants to confide in you. You should want to confide in your spouse. And you should do so without feeling like you're going to be judged. If you are spiritually immature, though, when your spouse is being honest and being proactive about something, you're going to throw in the towel. You're going to run off. You're going to check out. You're going to go hang out with the boys. You're going to go make a little date or go somewhere with the girls instead. No, you work that thing out and then y'all go on a date night. And then you go and you just, because the marriage bed is not defiled. So I'm just saying. Y'all go over there and y'all have some fun. You get it? You might make baby number one, baby number two, baby number three, whatever number you want. But you keep it honest. Be honest about your feelings and your emotions. Do not hide the things that hurt. Because in you sharing these things with your spouse, the person that you're connected to for the rest of your life, you're allowing them to see that you're human, that they've offended you, or that something needs to change. Or what they thought they were doing, it wasn't being received that way. Because we all do have a little bit of different love languages. We receive things differently and we give things differently. Sometimes what we mean to say is not how it's received. And sometimes how we receive things is not how it's meant to be received. So be honest. It saves you a lot of headache. And then number 12, be excited, guys. Yes, be excited. You are supposed to be excited. That's your person. That is your person. So why not be excited? Do not allow your relationship to fizzle because you lack excitement for your marriage. You're excited about everything else. You're excited about the fact that you had kids. You're excited about the new role. You're excited about it retirement. You're excited about the grandkids. You're excited about moving. You're excited about traveling. But are you excited about your marriage? Because you should be. If you're doing all of these other things, you should be excited. And if you're not doing any of these, you may have a lot of problems that you need to work on. But it starts with yourself. So that's the 10 ways that you can definitely show up in a marriage. And I'm going to recap: being present, being respectful, being kind, being forgiving, being accountable, being loving, being of value, being intentional, being proactive, being faithful, being honest, and being excited. Okay? So that's what I have for you guys tonight. And so if you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to me via the information in my bio. As always, if you guys want to offer a love contribution to this platform, then you can do so with the information that's in my bio as well, or the description of this particular live. Um, but now I want to open up for questions. So for those of you that have kind of been here for a while, I would love to open up the floor for you guys. Do you have any questions as it relates to complexities in marriage? Are you dating? Are you engaged? Are you considering marriage? Do you have questions about what your role entails? Because this is the time where you want to explore those things and iron them out before you go any further. You don't ever want to enter into something and then regret doing it down the line. It's best for you to walk away and to heal from that wound, but then go on to live a wholesome and healthy life with the person that you're meant to do it with, instead of dragging someone along and not treating them well, because our Father is not going to be pleased with that. And so, if you guys have questions, put it in the chat. And right now, I'm going to go back up and I'm going to give our shout outs to the people that took the time to comment. So, at Lincoln Wickeden, hi, and I'm thankful for you, and thank you for subscribing, and thank you for liking. I'm so grateful for you. And hi, and thank you at Kentley Holland 12V for commenting and being here. All right, guys. So while I'm waiting on your guys' comments to load, if you guys are going to comment, I'm going to go ahead and give a shout out to all of the places that we have impacted so far on this platform and along this journey. I just want to thank all of the subscribers and the viewers for taking time to always support and be obedient, because that's how, I am used as a vessel and I get to show up for you guys. So without you, it wouldn't be where it is. And so if you're from any of these places, drop me a heart. And if you're from anywhere different, let me know where you're from. Not your direct location, guys. No addresses, all personal stuff. Just, city or, country. And so the first one we have made impact in, the first country we've made, we have Brazil. We have South Korea. We have Canada. We have UK. We have Philippines. We have India. We have Uzbekistan, Germany, South Africa, Ukraine, Vietnam, Trinidad and Tobago, Japan, Indonesia, Turkey, Australia, Iraq, Algeria, Bangladesh, Russia, Belarus, Colombia, Mexico, Italy, Syria, and Jamaica. So I'm grateful for all of you guys taking the time to watch from wherever you are and supporting me this far, because it truly means a lot. It truly means a lot. You know, my husband was the one that told me, um, you know, yeah, I was like, well, it's not a lot of people, but he was like, well, when you think about it, it is. It's enough to fill, our congregation of where we worship. I don't think we have that many members there. And I was like, oh, well, I never thought about it like that. So it really does make a difference for you guys to show up one by one, two by twos. I always say if you can make the impact in one person's life, then you've made great impact because you never know who's watching or who needs to hear what it is that you carry. So make sure you're using your light and you're using it well. You're not dimming your light. Um, but yeah, if you guys don't have any questions, I will not hold you because I do have things to tend to. But yeah, I love you guys and I'm grateful for you taking time to sit here with me. And I look forward to seeing you soon. So let me see if I can give you guys kind of a heads up of what will be up next on the board. So, like I said, we just wrapped up 10 ways that you can show up in marriage, and we recapped the complexities that tend to present themselves prior to marriage as red flags that people typically don't recognize until after. What you should be doing during the purity phase, and then what you should be doing during the engagement phase, how to recognize the red flags, and how to approach those situations, and how to end things if they need to be ended. And then we, like I said, examine those 10 ways that you should be showing up in marriage anyway. And so, ooh, so, what will be up next? Next, we will be talking about 10 ways to show up as a wife. So, you can join me possibly tomorrow. If you have subscribed, then you will get that notification when I go live. If not, then I don't know. I just kind of do it when my schedule allows. So, 10 ways you can show up as a wife, and then that will be followed by 10 things I wish I knew as a wife. So, that one's probably going to be really good. So, yeah, I'll see you back whenever we're able to meet back here at the next appointed time. As always, I am grateful for your presence and I love each and every one of you. And I pray that you have a favorable night and you get you some rest, or that you have a great day if you're watching somewhere you're just starting your day. So I'm going to close this out in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for this time. I thank you for your presence. I thank you for each individual that you've allowed to watch this message and receive it well. I ask that you just would increase their wisdom, their understanding, and their knowledge surrounding marriage, Father, and that you would fill them with everything that they need to be able to thrive so that they can glorify and honor you in every way possible, Father. I ask that you would go before them and command your angels concerning them and their marriages, their households, their families to be, Father. Those engagements, allow them to be wholesome and fruitful, Father, and that just a relationship that you can use to exemplify what you do and how great you are as a father. And so, Father, we just thank you for every way that you've shown up for us throughout today and every assignment that we've had that is linked to our spiritual gifts. We just ask that you continue to multiply us and all of the work that we do, that you would give favor to our hands and that you would allow us to be great stewards of all that you give us. In your precious name, I pray these things and ask that you just keep them safe until the next appointed time. Let it be. All right, guys. That's all I have for you guys. I love you. Take care, and I'll see you soon. All right.